Hey everyone, DCB here again, adding some more variety to the variety show. Besides the hobbycraft of crafting hobbies, one of my other all-time favorite obsessions is vintage food package design. I've been consumed, pardon the pun, with it since as long as I can remember, and possibly even before that. I would stare in awe at all the fantastic boxes in the grocery store aisle, mesmerized by all their glorious colors and bold graphics. The 1960s and 70s were truly the golden age of design. Everything was bright and simplistic and eye-catching. Not like today, though, where products are run through focus groups and passed by lawyers, and it just gets all jumbled up with an ugly mess of messages and God knows what else. I mean, look at this. What is this? Back then, cereal boxes, for example, rarely even pictured the actual cereal on the front of the box. It didn't matter. All that was important was that it grabbed your attention. Most often that would involve the promise of a special prize inside, but even more importantly, I think, it was the mascot that drew the kids in. So now I'm going to list for you my top 10 favorite cereal mascots of all time. This isn't your typical list of the perennial all-star top 10s, but specifically my top 10. And if you know me, you know that I tend to lean towards the more obscure and interesting. Nope, you're not going to see any Tony the Tiger or Toucan Sam, Snap, Crackle, or Pop on this list. Actually, there weren't any Kellogg's characters on the list at all. With the exception of a few lesser-known characters from the 70s, I always found most of the Kellogg's characters to be pretty boring and uninspired. They're kind of like the Disney of cereal mascots. Yeah, sure, they're classics, but they're just not all that great. Lovable Truly was a postman and a pitchman for Alphabet Cereal. He, along with his other mascot buddies, starred in the Linus the Lionhearted cartoon that ran from 1964 to 69. The show was basically a half-hour-long commercial for Post cereals and was the impetus for the 1969 FCC ruling that said that TV shows for children can no longer advertise their products on their own show, which is weird since He-Man is basically one giant commercial for their toys, but okay. Lovable did go through a major design change early on, as he originally was a lot shorter and stout instead of his younger slim self that he became. I guess that's the power of eating alphabets. Frankenberry, as well as his buddy Count Chocula, debuted in 1971. Hey, so did I. Blueberry, Fruit Brute, and Yummy Mummy were introduced later. All five of the monsters are pretty great, but something about Frank really appealed to me. I think it's his color palette, as well as the little design touches in him, like his strawberry fingernails and the little clock and smokestack, and the way his chains are weirdly attached to the side of his cheeks. Bet you never noticed that, did you? I'm not a fan of cowboys, westerns, horses, or even maple syrup, but something about Waffalo Bill just spoke to me. I can't explain this one. He was introduced in 1979 by Ralston. Sugar Bear is the mascot for Super Sugar Crisp. The cereal, as well as the bear, have gone through numerous name and design changes over the decades, but my favorite is the early 70s version with his large blue turtleneck sweater proudly displaying his name across his chest. I think I just like the color combinations of the two shades of brown against the complementary blue. Like the General Mills monsters and the Post Cereal gang, the whole Cap'n Crunch crew are pretty dang swell, but the one who really appeals to me the most is Captain's loyal sidekick, SEADOG. He never spoke in the commercials, but he did have his own cereal that looked pretty delicious. I never had it myself. I can only assume. He's also attached to quite an interesting history of early phone hacking. Google Basson whistle hack if you don't know what I'm talking about. Now, I don't remember this cereal at all from my youth, but Baron von Redberry debuted when I was just 1 year old and only lasted a short while. I was introduced to him years later when I became a cereal collector, but man, this is just one beautiful looking box. The red and black just pop like, wow, what a box. I once held every file copy of it when I visited General Mills archives a few years back. It took all my effort not to run off with them. There is a counterpart cereal called Sir Greatfellow, but for some reason he's just not as appealing to me. I think I just like the contradiction of a World War I German pilot pitching a sugary kids cereal. What a difference a few years and another war makes, because there's no way in hell there would be a World War II German pilot cereal mascot, right? Dinky Donuts hit the shelves in 1981 with 3 kids in business attire as mascots. They were later replaced by this very short-lived mascot, possibly named Dinky? I don't know, who knows? Not much is really known about him, but that's what I love about him. He's morbidly obese, wears a ridiculous outfit, and flies around in a donut-shaped vehicle. What's not to love? Ask any true cereal aficionado who the greatest breakfast character of all time is, and they will most likely concede that it has to be Quisp. He epitomizes mascot greatness, just from the simple fact alone that he has not changed his basic look since he was introduced in 1965. Wow, that's 55 years. He's a flawlessly simple J-word created perfection right there. My number 2 choice may make some of you uncomfortable, but just know that I'm strictly going off of design appeal and not looking at it through the prism of today's wokeness. He's a cute little Chinese boy whose short stature gave him the namesake of So High. He is a cartoon, and as a cartoon, you exaggerate features. He is dressed in a traditional Chinese outfit, as many Chinese people actually did wear. It wouldn't make any sense if he was a Chinese boy and he wore a tam and a kilt, now would it? Anyway, I like him. He was part of the post-cereal gang that I mentioned earlier with Lovable Truly. He had his own cartoon segments on the Linus the Lion-Hearted show as well, and was often featured on cross-promotional pieces with the rest of the gang, like on this Lunchbox and record album. Here's a recap. And my number 1 pick for my all-time favorite cereal mascot goes to Cecil the Robot from 1976's Grins and Smiles and Giggles and Laughs cereal. This thing is absurd. The whole concept behind Cecil was that he was a grumpy machine, but if the 4 characters named Grins, Smiles, Giggles, and Laughs could get him to laugh, he would projectile vomit out full boxes of cereal. The same cereal that is visible in his clear head dome, so presumably the cereal is his brain. None of this makes any sense, yet it was the mid-70s, so it all makes perfectly good sense. So that's my list. What do you think? Are any of these on your top 10 list? Let me know in the comments who some of your favorites are, and thanks for watching. Now I gotta go get some breakfast.
You're weird.